What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode of the MKD DFS Show here on the MKD DFS YouTube channel. My name is Brandon, also known as MKD, here for week 13. First ever episode putting up for any Draftkings or NFL DFS slate for that matter, specifically on Draftkings. I don't play FanDuel, nor do I play on Yahoo, so this will be just a specific Draftkings lineup. We'll go over the prices and the different players out. So if you're looking for someone for FanDuel or Yahoo, unfortunately, I'm not the YouTuber for that, but hopefully this can still help you create some lineups over on those different websites as news obviously spreads throughout the league on both sites. So here for week 13, weird slate, a lot of weird news, players suspended, players injured. So I really definitely think there are some good GPP plays and possible punts, good contrarian plays. I also think it's a little good to eat the chalk this week. We don't have our main players like Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. We don't have Lamar Jackson, even though he hasn't been the best this season. However, we do have some good plays that I think could possibly be in the winning Millie Maker lineup. So I'm ready to be able to come out here and help you guys give some good analysis so you guys can take down your GPP and cash game lineups. I've been playing for about a year and a half. Just a little bit about me. I've been playing for about a year and a half now. I've taken down some decent contests, won some money, put it right into my bank account, and kept some here on DraftKings just to keep playing. Hasn't been too much, but I definitely hope to continue to grow, just like you guys. If you're here for the first time, or if you're a relatively new player, if you're a friend, thanks for watching. If you're new to my channel entirely, consider subscribing or share it around. It's always nice to see that what I'm doing is able to help you guys out. So we're gonna start here first with the Cleveland Tennessee game. The spread, I believe, is a 53-point total with a 6-point spread favoring Tennessee. Obviously, some Ryan Tannehill just looks good. He has looked good. Not in the past few games like we've seen, but we can definitely see that he has a ceiling of around 30 plus points. And I think around this time last year, he was slinging the ball. I mean, he is a great quarterback. He has seen some tough matchups. He's seen Indianapolis twice. Still put up decent totals. Lost the first game, won the last one. I believe winning by 20 plus. Obviously Derrick Henry went off for a monstrous game, but we have seen that the Cleveland Browns are decent against the run, but against the pass, they get blown out, and they almost got blown out. They almost lost essentially last week to the Jacksonville Jaguars under, I believe it was Mike Glennon. So yeah, definitely not a good QB, but they were able to put some points up. So I definitely think you can attack the passing side on this game. Baker Mayfield just hasn't looked good in general. I mean, you can see this last 4 games. Got 7, 5, 8, and then 18 against Jacksonville when it was decently competitive. Again, this game is slated for 53 points, 6-point spread, so I don't think it's going to be as much of a shootout, and especially with Cleveland missing Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper seem to be like the only two main pass catchers behind or next to like maybe Kareem Hunt if you want to put him in there, but he hasn't even looked that good recently either. Now that Nick Chubb has been back and kind of been siphoning all the carries and also seeing some passing upside. He caught I think 3 passes. Yep, 3 targets, 3 receptions. Yeah, 32 yards. Kareem Hunt hasn't been looking that good. So I think in regards to this game, if you are going to stack, I would stack with a Ryan Tannehill. You can stack him with A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown has been looking amazing. He doesn't have that many targets, nor does he have that many receptions to say like a Devontae Adams or a Keenan Allen, but his A dot is enormous. 4 receptions, 6 targets, 98 and a touchdown. Plus, he also returned that onside kick for a touchdown. So obviously, that's how he got the 25. However, regardless, he just looked really good this season. His ceiling is a 30-point with the. I guess Indianapolis, they kind of got blown out there. I wouldn't really consider that much of a game. But his floor is still pretty decent. Over the last 4 games, he got a 23, 3, 16, and a 25 against Cleveland, who, like I said, are pretty porous against the pass, as we saw last week with Jacksonville being able to keep it relatively close. I definitely think you could put in A.J. Brown with a stack. Corey Davis has just looked really, really good this season. 10 last week, 19, 11, 29. That's almost a 30-point game, 30-point game right there for him. 15, 11, 12, and 20. Who would have thought that Corey Davis in 2020 was going to be this monster that he is, behind A.J. Brown? But with Adam Humphries out with those concussions, he's definitely seeing a lot. I think he is going to be back in for this game now that his concussion has since cleared after taking a monstrous hit in a few games ago. But even Adam Humphries has been doing pretty good. Houston, obviously, is just such a smash game for him. That's when I played him this week. 6 receptions, 6 targets, 64 yards, and a touchdown. Deshaun Watson is such a good QB, able to keep it pretty close against the Tennessee Titans, allowing Adam Humphries to grab those 6 and a touchdown for 18 points. Otherwise, I wouldn't really trust him even at 3,200. He's coming off 3 games without playing. He's been missing practice. Granted, he's back this week at practice, but still missing 3 games and all that practice. I wouldn't really consider him much of a play. You could possibly punt with him at 3,200 if you're looking to pay up for Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, all the big names, Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, anything like that. If you really wanted to punt, Adam Humphries is good. However, I definitely think in regards to a massive punt, we can see that Jonnu Smith for the Tennessee Titans is out with a knee injury. It's very tough to overcome, especially this late. Maybe they're trying to keep him for the playoff run. So that leaves Anthony Ferczer. I've been playing Anthony Ferczer here for a little bit now. Last game, I completely faded him. I really didn't think against Indianapolis he was going to do much. That turned out to be a huge Derrick Henry game. So it didn't really even turn out to be much in the passing attack. However, he did see 5 targets, 4 receptions, 33 yards for a 7-point fantasy total here against Baltimore. I did play him that game, but we've seen that when Jonnu Smith is out, especially this game against Houston right here, this is the one that Adam Humphries went off for a decent bit, but 28.3 points here at min 2,500. He is min again. Jonnu Smith is out once again, and I like I said, Cleveland is very porous against the pass. Anthony Ferczer does project to carry at least a few targets his way, if not more, now that Jonnu is out. They were essentially 50-50 splitting this whole offense against Baltimore. Indianapolis, Jonnu Smith didn't really do much against Indianapolis either. I think he missed the only target that he was given. So I think Anthony Ferczer is a perfect play. If you wanted to go a little cheaper, obviously projection is going to, or all the projected ownership is going to go, towards Derrick Henry here. He had a huge game, 41 points. His ceiling is massive. He's a slate breaker. That's why they call him the big dog. So many attempts from the backfield. They really only have him now that Dion Lewis isn't there anymore. So 27 attempts. He's not getting many receptions, 4 targets, but 2 for 7. Those aren't long targets at all, unlike how we see from, let's say, Dalvin Cook or James Robinson, things like that. So he's not really in the passing attack much. So I really think you can pivot off Derrick Henry entirely now, especially now that the Cleveland Browns have Myles Garrett back. I think that's going to be a bit of a tougher matchup, and I really just don't want to eat the chalk on Derrick Henry at all. I love the man. I love the way he plays, but he just doesn't seem like the player for me that I'm going to go back to every week. We've only seen 2-3 games this season where he's hit that mile high stone. Being 7,800, that was obviously kind of a wash. He was just priced way down, and now that Draftkings is pricing him back up, you catch him at such weird ownership and such a weird salary. No one was playing Derrick Henry last week, and those who did, obviously, are the ones that made it into the Millie Maker. 41.5 points. He's now 9,200 this week. I really don't think he's in play. However, I would essentially call this 3/4 of the big dog, Nick Chubb. Now that he's back from his injury, we've seen massive point games for him. 29.6, 14.4. Granted, again, it was against Philly. They kept it closer. I think it was more of that win game. Kareem Hunt grabbed some points too. I think Kareem Hunt might have stolen a touchdown from him. But yeah, just huge. I mean, and even against Houston, 21.6, 19 for 126 and a touchdown. He's seen over the past 3 games, he's played 2 touchdowns in 3 games. So against Tennessee, they're good against the run, but Nick Chubb is just another type of person, man. He's another big dog. He's a dude. He's a grown ass man, and I really think Nick Chubb can be able to push through and go for those long runs. Kareem Hunt, if you want to go for Kareem, you can. But even, I mean, I haven't been my season long, but even when Nick Chubb was out, he wasn't putting up those massive point games like you wanted him to. You kind of see them work in tandem down here for like the first 5 games of the season where he's putting up, double digit points. However, after that, it kind of gets a little choppy. 7.7, 9.3, 9.1 in the last week, 6.2. Obviously, we were letting more. Jarvis Landry went off for huge numbers. I think he had like 30 points or something like that. And Nick Chubb went off for the 144 yard fantasy day. So I really think Kareem Hunt might be in play if you want that 54. But I think around this price point here, you're going to be able to see some really, really good value. And with them being 2, it's always probably going to be just Nick Chubb. He's going to be the one that's always breaking up those huge runs. Maybe if they keep it closer, if Cleveland can manage to pace up with Tennessee, or if Tennessee just completely bodies them in regards to running it with Derrick Henry and passing to A.J. Brown and Corey Davis, maybe they rely more on Kareem Hunt just for those pass backs. So he might be in play, based on however you project this game to be going. In regards to wide receiver, for Cleveland, you can go Jarvis Landry. I love the purple hair that he's got going on. 6,200. They did price him up from the 52 that he was last time, so a whole $1,000 more. He is the clear cut wide receiver 1, as much as I hate to say it. But those last 3 games, I think it was against Las Vegas, Houston, Philadelphia, they had that weird wind. No one was really catching the balls. They relied heavily on the run. But then they played in Jacksonville, sunny old Florida, where I reside, rather. So he was able to see 11 targets, 8 receptions, 143 yards, and a touchdown. I think there might have been a dropped ball, if I'm not mistaken, so it wouldn't have been even higher. 31.3 points. This man made it into the Millie Maker. He was in the optimal for sure. This week, you can probably play him again. I mean, I think they're going to be trailing. I don't really trust Cleveland and their offense much. So I definitely think Baker is going to have to sling the ball. I don't think you really want to run with Baker just because he's not that great of a quarterback, but you can probably go with Jarvis Landry, or let's say even an Austin Hooper here at 3,800. He's only seeing minimal targets, but he still grabbed a touchdown for you, so he could be a yes. If they're playing from really far behind and they really just need to sling the ball. Last time he saw 5 targets as well in Philadelphia, but that was more for those short routes that he was catching because of the wind. However, Austin Hooper is in a pretty great spot. Tennessee doesn't rank that well against tight ends. However, I wouldn't really go to Njoku or Harrison Bryant, even though Harrison Bryant looked way better than Njoku when Austin Hooper was out for appendicitis. But, granted, I think you can just fade these last 2. It's kind of going to be Austin Hooper or bust. Rashad Higgins, he's looked decent. Last game was kind of an outlier. Jarvis Landry kind of, like I said, was a clear-cut wide receiver 1. But against Philadelphia, he saw 4 targets. Houston, he saw 4 targets. And at 4K, he's not terrible, especially with Kadero Hodge out at 3,300. So we might see some more targets. These 8 from the last 2, they might possibly go either to Jarvis Landry or to Rashad Higgins, as I don't really think there's anybody left in Cleveland other than Donovan Peoples-Jones, but he is also the punt returner, I believe. So we'll see about that. In regards to defenses, you can go with the Titans. I think they are a pretty decent defense, or the Browns. But I'm a punt defense truther. I played the trash New York Jets for the past 3 games, and I've eked out one $400 win outing, another $100 win, and another $100 win. So, you can really punt. It doesn't matter. The Browns did put up 20 points against Philadelphia, but that was Carson Wentz. This is Ryan Tannehill. This is AJ Brown. This is Derrick Henry. These are big boys. This is a big football team. So I really don't think the Browns are going to be able to do too much, even with their starters back. So let's move on to Indianapolis and Houston. Here we have some decent news. I don't know if you guys have heard yet, but Will Fuller has been suspended. He is out for 6 games, which is the rest of the NFL season, for performance-enhancing drugs, as well as Bradley Roby on the defense. So that is their star cornerback. So I definitely think you can go with some of the Indianapolis pass attack, and like we'll see. Deshaun Watson is a monster. Even though Will Fuller is out, they were correlated completely, right? You saw just how good he did against Detroit on the Thanksgiving slate. We saw that Will Fuller was a monster, and they tested him after and probably got his ass. I'm surprised that he wasn't injured. Surprised he caught 2 touchdowns for like over 156 yards. Right, he was amazing in my fantasy for my season long because I have him in there. Unfortunately, the man got caught. It is what it is. But still, Deshaun Watson is a monster. 7,500. Recent game log, 36, 34, 14 kind of was a fluke. I think that's when they played Cleveland, that win game, so you can't really trust that at all. 24, 27, 35, 29. So he's got the rushing upside and also the arm. Now that he's got Brandon Cooks as his clear-cut wide receiver and Kiki QT and some other random guys like Jordan Akins and Darren Fells, I still think you can probably go with him. I mean, I'm going to fade him personally just because I really think that the Colts are better than some people say, even though they did get smashed by Tennessee entirely. I think that they're better than some people think they are. Maybe not against the run, plus they're missing some starters. But, man, can Brandon Cooks become the clear-cut wide receiver 1 enough for Deshaun Watson to put up 35+ to be able to break the slate? I don't think so. As much as I hate to say it, I do love Deshaun Watson. I see him every week in some lineups of mine. But, man, I am scared. So, unfortunately, Phillip Rivers on the opposite end, I really don't think you can go with him at all. Maybe, right? 5,900, 18, 22, 19, 22, 28. Hasn't been too bad, but, man, some of these games down here, 7.6, 8, things like that, those can happen. And those happen against decent teams that you don't even think, like against Cleveland right here. Maybe 23-32. I don't know if they were necessarily in Cleveland with the wind as bad as it was. I don't think they were, but still 7.62, right? Sometimes they rely heavily on the run game with Nyheim Hines. I think Jonathan Taylor's going to be back this week. Also, Jacoby Brissett has been coming in and stealing touchdowns, right? 2 touchdowns against Tennessee, their first game that they played. 1 touchdown. He's getting these weird goal line touches here, and it's honestly taking away from everybody on this Indianapolis side. Can you really trust Jonathan Taylor? As much as I like him, he is a decent rookie, but also you gotta, the coach, man, just doesn't seem to want to stick to one running back. He's got Jonathan Taylor, he's got Nyheim Hines, he's got Jordan Wilkins. You can pretty much go with anybody there. And now also he's throwing in Jacoby Brissett. Like, who can you trust? So I am going to full fade all of them. I think if you choose the right one, they could make you some decent money. If you go Jonathan Taylor and Jonathan Taylor's the hot hand, or if you go Nyheim Hines and Nyheim Hines is the hot hand, you're going to win some money regardless, right? Nyheim Hines was huge last week, going for 17.5 fantasy points against Tennessee. He was super chalky, so I faded him. But with Jonathan Taylor back, and you got an extra person in the mix, who are you going to choose, right? So I think, man, it's always a toss-up, especially with the wide receivers in Tennessee's late on down. But Duke Johnson here against Indianapolis, with Will Fuller out, he's going to see some more targets. He's got 4 targets. He's going to go for those long routes like he did. He caught that touchdown against Detroit. But Indianapolis is a little bit better than the run. Detroit, honestly, they're kind of dog shit. So as much as I hate to say it, watching that game was an absolute travesty. Duke Johnson still has been burning me. I love David Johnson, but Duke Johnson, he's the He's a lesser of the two DJs in my opinion. So 17 points is decent, but he's also got that 6. He got the 5. He's very touchdown dependent. So it's a huge variance that I think I might go ahead and pass entirely. I think there are some better backs, especially at 5,800, who you can possibly even go with and maybe bite the chalk. So, like I said, Bill Fuller's out. Brandon Cook, clear cut wide receiver 1. Randall Cobb's also on IR. Those were the 3 top ones. So after Randall Cobb, you kind of come down here and you look at this $3,500 man in Kiki QT. Last season, he was doing pretty good, in my opinion. And then they got Brandon Cooks from LA, and he just became the number 1. So even against Detroit here with Randall Cobb out, he saw 3 targets, 17 yards. He was possibly like a huge punt play if you played the Thanksgiving slate, but 5.7 points isn't going to win you any money, especially on Turkey Day. So 35, priced up at 35. I think you can go for him because I think Indianapolis can scheme pretty well for Brandon Cooks. So I think punting with Kiki QT isn't that terrible. Further on down, you got Isaiah Coulter. I think there was a second guy. I can't think of his name. Steven something. He might be on there as well. He seemed like an undrafted rookie or something of the sort. So, but he's not even on the slate, right? So you either go Brandon Cooks at 56, who's going to see a huge, and I want to emphasize huge amount of target share. This one, Will Fuller was seeing insane, and I hate to keep jumping back. I apologize, but insane, right? So 10, 5, 7, 8, 11, 6, 5, 8, 8, 7, right? So all that is completely gone. He's going to have to throw it to Cooks, who's still seeing 5, 5, 8, 9, 9, 9, 12, and these touchdowns too. Decent points, 13, 12, 17. Granted, he's not hitting that 30, high and 20 points that Will Fuller was hitting, but with Brandon Cooks a clear cut, I think that he can definitely see a lot more target share. Can Indianapolis scheme for Brandon Cooks? Of course. Can they completely shut him down? I don't know if they have like a huge star cornerback necessarily, but I think the defense is pretty good in general. So I am kind of nervous to play any of them. On the opposite end, we have Michael Pittman Jr., who's been seeing 9 targets, 8 targets, 7 targets, right? So every time he's been back from injury after week 3, he's come back strong, and they priced him up accordingly, 4,900. Again, last week they didn't need him because for some strange reason, Philip Rivers just like to sling the ball to just everybody and their freaking mother. So, even though he has 9 targets and 28 yards, he only put up 4 points. Can this change against Houston? Of course. Houston is porous, especially with Bradley Roby out. They do not have anybody to properly cover Michael Pittman Jr. So, is he in play at 4,900? 100%. Possibly even you could break the chalk from Brandon Cooks. You know what I mean? Maybe you can grab, you can break the chalk from Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, and go with Michael Pittman Jr. Can you also even go with T.Y. Hilton? As dusty of a wide receiver as this man is, he still put up 18 points. Granted it's touchdown dependent, but 5 targets, 6 targets, 5 targets. Not bad at 4,300, especially with them probably going to be blowing Houston out. And if Houston wants to sling the ball, fingers crossed they keep it close, right? Just because I like Deshaun Watson and that entire team. Will Fuller is the dog. Unfortunately, he got caught. So it is what it is. But can you play T.Y. Hilton? Maybe. I'm going to fade him entirely. I wish he was better. Just like I wish A.J. Green did anything. But unfortunately, things like that happen. Zach Pascal has been injured recently, but he's been full participation back. I believe he's leading the targets, or he's leading the team in targets, which is weird. Just because you don't really see Zach Pascal do much of anything. He's got 4 targets, 3 targets, 5 targets, and down here he's got all these other air yards too, 8 targets, things like that. But he's not putting up decent points for me to even want to consider him. I think there are better plays at the position around this price point. I'm going to go ahead and fade him. So I think your best options here for the Indianapolis pass attack are going to be T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman Jr. We go over to tight ends. Trey Burton has looked amazing. He seems to be the number 1 tight end on this team, next to Mo Alley Cox and Jack Doyle. So 6 targets, 5 targets, 3 targets, 4, 5, 6. He's putting up decent points. 21 points here is his ceiling. 13 last game. 1 touchdown. He's slinging it to different people. And they were only down how many against Tennessee? But even with Indianapolis up, he's still seeing decent. He's getting you there somehow. He was a punt play a couple weeks back. Unfortunately, he is priced at $3,500 now that Draftkings is realizing that he is a clear-cut wide receiver 1 for them. Mo Ali Cox, you can go for him maybe at $2,700, but he's just not seeing the variance enough for me to even consider him. I think there are better ones. Like I said, Anthony Ferczer is going to be completely min, and even at $2,700, I really wouldn't trust Mo Ali Cox. Jack Doyle, he's kind of a wash. He's only seeing 1, 2, 2, and he's very touchdown dependent, so I completely fade him entirely. Darren Fells, I think Houston, what they're going to do, rather than just sling it to Kiki QT and Brandon Cooks, they're going to have a lot of 2 tight end spreads. So I think these guys are going to come up for a lot more snaps than usual with Will Fuller suspended. 2 targets, 1 target, 2 targets, 7 targets. But I believe this was around the time that Jordan Akins was out. And then Darren Fells kind of went out too. So they've been kind of injury prone this entire season. Darren Fells does seem to be the better one, just because Jordan Akins did drop a couple 2 touchdowns last game against Detroit. Still is seeing those 6 targets, still seeing those 4 targets, though, and getting those touchdown passes. And, he seems to be a decently fair and pretty important target on this offense. So can you go Jordan Akins against Indianapolis when they don't have really anybody to sling it to? Now that Will Fuller's gone, of course. Will he be very, very chalky? I think so, yes. There's not many fantasy relevant tight ends this season, besides like Travis Kelce and George Kittle, even though Kittle's been on IR for a decent bit now. So anyone is kind of a punt play at this point. Jordan Akins, you can, but you will be eating some chalk. I personally will go ahead and fade him, but these lineups they vary from player to player. So the defenses, Colts are really good against 3,000. Being 3,000, I think you can go with them just because Deshaun Watson is going to be pushed to be making some crazy freaking plays. Texans, I would never trust him in my entire life. The only time I ever did was against Detroit because J.J. Watt decided to show up and really show them why he's the best in the league. An interception for a defensive return and a touchdown. So that was pretty nice. But against Indianapolis, as much as I think Phillip Rivers is complete dust, and the man doesn't curse no matter what happens in his life, I don't think you can really go with them at all. So now over to Las Vegas and the New York Jets. Derek Carr, cheeky, sneaky play, even though he burned a lot of people. Granted, not me. I was able to fade the man just because I knew the chalk was going to be there, and I don't trust Derek Carr enough, But if you're a Derek Carr truther, which we saw against KC a couple times, right? Almost 30 points. Against Tampa Bay, 20 points. KC, 22. Against these good teams, he gets points. However, against Atlanta, he fumbled like 3 times, threw an interception. Josh Jacobs fumbled. They weren't getting anything going on offense. However, against the Jets, the hapless Jets, I definitely think you can play him. But I mean, I'm going to go ahead and personally fade him. I've already got my lineups made up, and I might be changing him just based on the some of the news that came out recently. But I mean, you can go with Derek Carr. He's a good play. He's got some sneaky points there, 22, 24. If he hits one of those against these really good teams who he's just constantly slinging it against, man, he could put up some points and possibly win you some money. But I really don't. He's just going to be a cheap play, 5,800. You know what I mean? So it's up to you to choose. Sam Darnold's back, unfortunately. I really like Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco was putting up constantly 20 points, and it was looking amazing. Against Miami, the dude sucks, right? The Jets suck entirely. I really don't like them. In regards for a QB play, I think you can pay up a little bit and go somewhere better. If they play Joe Flacco, which, unfortunately he's reverted to a backup role, I think you could play him. I love the man, right? I'm a big Ravens fan. I was there for his MVP run when he got that huge Super Bowl win with Ray Lewis and everything like that. But after that, man, he went from the Broncos, then he went to the Jets, and now he's slinging behind Sam Darnold, right? Put the guy under center completely, make him the starter again. Even though he's completing 15, but he's got 30 attempts, 18 attempting 25, 21 attempting 44. The man's got prayer yards. He's got an arm. The man has a freaking cannon. Okay, so if he can go and pass it out to Denzel Mims or Brashad Perriman like the man was doing against New England and the Chargers, boy, I think this team has a better shot at winning than dusty old Sam Darnold. Okay, you could say that the O-line is what's to blame. You could say that they got one of the worst coaches in Gase, and I think you're right, 100%. But I do think that Joe Flacco is probably their best chance for winning, but they don't understand that stuff. So anyways, running back, right? This is one of the big news. Josh Jacobs is out, which means against these terrible Jets, where I think that Las Vegas is probably going to be up by a large margin with Sam Darnold under center, I think Booker is a fantastic play. We saw what he did against Denver, right? They were up massive, and I think it's going to be the same thing against the Jets. Even though Las Vegas has been garbage, they were able to completely stop Denver and like Jerry Jeudy and the rest of them for just 12 points. The man put up 16 rushing attempts, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a target, but he was obviously sharing him with Josh Jacobs. He put up 21, right? Even before that against the Chargers, he put up 12. Now he's the number 1 in that team. He's going up against the Jets, who have been pretty bad defensively overall. I mean, obviously worse against the pass, but I think Booker is fantastic at 55, right? It's a huge salary downgrade, and a nice cheap option to go there. Man, can you go Frank Gore with the Jets against the Vegas run defense, who is probably one of the worst in the league? Maybe I was gonna go Frank Gore last week against Miami because I'm not really scared of Miami. He still saw 18 attempts, 74 yards, no touchdown, 3 targets for 12, right? With Sam Darnold. Can you play him against Las Vegas? Maybe, right? He's 4,400. That's not bad. He was 43. He's only priced up $100. Like Michael P. Ryan is still out. He's going to get those touches. I don't trust any of the two. Rest of them, the other two backs on this team. So Frank Gore, even though the man's like 38 years old, he's still running, right? We saw AP on Thanksgiving get like 2 touchdowns against Houston. Can Frank Gore get a touchdown? Maybe get you some 15, 16 points for 4,400? Of course, right? But, there's always a punt play. So Jameson Crowder, man, loved him at the beginning, right? 27.5 against Buffalo, 20.4 against Denver, 28.6 against Miami. And then slowly but surely, it's been worse and worse. After Miami got injured, came back against New England, 10.6. I think they had the bye after New England, and then it was 2 and 6. Even with Sam Darnold back, he only saw 5 targets. His other 2 receivers in Perriman and Denzel Mims have been showing themselves as good wide receivers. Rashad Perriman looked good in Tampa, but next to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, wasn't really able to show much. So now he's over on the Jets with them only having 1, and that was just Jamison Crowder. Now he's able to see 8 targets. 5 targets against New England, put up 30 points. So these are big air yards that Jamison Crowder just isn't seeing, and they're going to Brashad Perriman and Denzel Mims. And at these price points, I think they're perfect plays. Because like I said, Las Vegas has not been good. Even though they've been winning and they have been doing decent in regards to standings against this team, can it be closer than some people think? I think so. The Jets suck in general, but so does Vegas. Derek Carr isn't that good. 8 targets, 7 targets, 8 targets. These 10 points right here, even though there's only 4, 3, and 4, these are all massive air yards that he's getting. Longest catch was 30 yards right here. You say, put that with 8 targets. I mean, that's 100 plus and more. Granted, he maybe catches a touchdown on that one, especially against Vegas, and that's pretty decent, 4,100. I would probably aim to go more with Perriman just because of his possible 30-point upside that we saw with his 2 touchdowns Also, he's caught way more touchdowns than Denzel Mims has recently. They looked for him in the red zone a lot, which is pretty good. So I would definitely go with him. I think in tight end wise, you don't really want to trust Herndon. So that's pretty much it in regards to the Jets. Aguilar for Las Vegas, you can possibly go for. His last against KC, he's been looking really good, and against these good players and these teams. But even when they were crushing Denver, he only saw 1.8. However, when they're slinging the ball to maybe catch up to Atlanta, he did see 6 targets, only 10.4, and he's at 5,200. So I really don't think he's that much of a smash play, even though the Jets just aren't good, quite literally at all. If anything, I would look for more of a Renfro play at 43. He's seeing 9 targets. He saw 9 targets last game, and he got 14.3. He was the clear number 1 wide receiver on that team at the time, next to Darren Waller, and he's a lot cheaper than Aguilar. He's about $900 cheaper, so he can definitely get you some decent players up top if you want to run with him, considering his target share. And I think, like I said, against the Jets, man, you can play just about anybody against them and be happy with it. Henry Ruggs has not been looking good. I want him to succeed so bad just because the man's just basically running wind sprints out there all alone. The man can beat just about any deep back as you can possibly imagine. But man, they are just, I don't know if it's Carr, maybe just doesn't have the arm for it, or just doesn't trust Ruggs to grab it or something. I don't know what it is, but the man is just sprinting out there alone. So I really wouldn't trust him. Maybe if we start to see an uptick, he could possibly be a huge punt GPP play just because his percentage owned is going to be so low just about all the time. And anyone else, I think that's just about it. You can go Darren Waller, but he has burned quite a bit of people. He put up 21.8 against KC. He put it 15, Tampa Bay 17. So it seems to be like these really high-end good matchups where it's super close, like against LA, 10 targets. Super close, they rely on Darren Waller. Otherwise, they're going to sling the ball around to different people. Give it to Aguilar, give it to Renfro. They're not really going to trust Waller a lot. Also, I think he dropped a ball in the end zone or close to it, which would have been great for a touchdown. But yeah, he's been burning people, and I just don't want to pay up for 6,100 for a tight end that has this weird variance. You know what I mean? Where it's going to be possibly 28 or possibly 6 points. Maybe if he was putting up constant 15, 16 points a game, would I pay up for 6,100? Hell yeah. But is he doing that? Definitely not. So I think I'm going to go ahead and fade him entirely. Otherwise, I think that's it. I wouldn't trust any of these defenses. That's not true. The Jets, right? So 2,100, the next lowest one, I believe, the Jags against Minnesota, but I don't trust the Jags. The Jets have been putting up 9, 8, screw KC and New England, 5, 6. At 2,100, that's not bad. That's cheap. That's the cheapest defense you can possibly get besides the Jacksonville Jaguars, but like what's $100? You know what I mean, for salary. So I think you could definitely pay for the Jets and be happy with it against Las Vegas. If they can make Derek Carr fumble 3 times to catch an interception and maybe make Aguilar, hopefully not Devontae Booker because I'm playing him, but hopefully one of those other players fumble, man, that's a 10+ game right there for those 2,100 defense. Now over to New Orleans and Atlanta. Drew Brees is still on IR. Taysom Hill is the QB1. Price up to 6,300. He was 62 last week. He's not that 4,800 that you're getting before, so you're paying up a decent bit just for 2 rushing touchdowns. He's not slinging it that much. He's not really out there throwing deep balls, getting you 30 points. It's these rushing touchdowns. And he's not a Lamar Jackson. He's not a Cam Newton. He's not a Kyler Murray or Deshaun Watson. He's not going to get you the pass and the rush, right? He's just going to get you the rush, these 2 touchdowns. And I think Atlanta has played against them once. Do I think it gets as close as it was before? I want to say no, but I mean, Julio Jones, I believe, is going to be out. Todd Gurley, he is questionable still. and Olamide Zaccheaus is out there. So it's really just Calvin Ridley out there running by himself, and Brian Hill, who's essentially just not even relevant, even at his cheap price tag. So if you want to pay it for Taysom Hill, I get it, but at 63, I think you can get. I mean, he's going to be pretty contrarian. You know what I mean? He's priced up. No one wants just a 2-touchdown guy, especially just for rushing, because I believe that counts for less than a passing touchdown does on DFS. But can he pass it? Can he throw a touchdown to Michael Thomas? Can he throw it randomly to Alvin Kamara? Can he throw it to Latavius Murray? Can he throw it to Emmanuel Sanders? Sure. Have we seen it? No. So I think I'm going to go ahead and fade Taysom Hill. But if you think he can maybe do it, and I mean, if he's going to do it, Atlanta's going to be it, right? They were up 24-9, 31-3 against Denver. They basically stopped playing the Denver game. So I think, can they get a little, can they have some fun with Atlanta? Sure. Maybe Taysom Hill throws his first touchdown, gets a high five from Drew Brees, etc., etc. Matt Ryan, he's looked good in some games. 34 against Minnesota, 21 against Detroit. He's had some decent games, but these last couple without Julio Jones, man, that seems to be the outlier. Without Julio Jones, this offense ain't much. You know what I mean? You got Calvin Ridley out there, but he's been nursing an ankle foot injury for the past season practically. So, pick and choose, I guess. But without Julio Jones' offense, ain't much. You can go with him. He's still slinging the ball. The man's got 39 attempts last game, 37. So he's passing. He is out there slinging it. Now it might be condensed to Calvin Ridley, maybe Brian Powell, you know what I mean? Players like that, since Olamide Zaccheaus is out and Julio Jones might be out as well. So maybe can you get some nice cheeky punt plays? Sure. I just wouldn't trust it, especially against a decent New Orleans defense. Alvin Kamara at 7,000. He was a monster. He was. The man was a myth. The man was a legend. He was up there priced at 9,200 against Atlanta. Then he was priced to 82, and now he's at 7,000. What a huge drop. What a massive discount. If you want to go ahead and grab him, he's only seen 2-3 targets in the last 2 games when he was the dink and dunk champ. 8, 9, 14, 4, 10, 8, 13, 6, 8, and then with Taysom Hill under center, 1 and 2. What can you do with that math? You know what I mean? It is honestly a huge, huge, huge dip for Alvin Kamara, especially with the massive contract this man signed in the beginning of the season. He's still seeing 11 attempts, 13, so maybe can he get there on the ground? Sure, but I think Atlanta and I think Denver have been decent. Plus he's been weirdly nursing a foot injury. It says that he's ready to play, but let's say they decide to keep him for the offseason and just keep letting Latavius Murray pound the rock like he's been doing. 19 attempts with 1 target, for 2 yards. Granted, sucks, but they were just pounding the rock after they went up and beat Denver entirely. 19 attempts for 124 yards with 2 touchdowns, right? 28.6. He was in the optimal. Who would have thought that Alvin Kamara would just be as, caca as he is here in the latter part of the season? But Latavius Murray could be another good play if they decide to, limit Alvin Kamara's snaps and just give the ball constantly to Taysom Hill and give the ball constantly to Latavius Murray. It seems that they're accounting for much of the touchdowns on that team. Obviously, you got Will Lutz cooking and kicking the ball for him. You got Latavius Murray getting the 2 touchdowns, and you got Taysom Hill grabbing the 2 touchdowns. So it really just become the New Orleans rushing Saints. You know what I mean? So you can choose Latavius Murray if you want to. On the opposite side, Todd Gurley is still questionable. If he's out, I mean, to be honest, if he's in, I wouldn't trust Todd Gurley much anyways. Saints are pretty good against the run. If he's out, I wouldn't trust Brian Hill or Ito Smith, even though Ito Smith seems to be the better one of the two. 12 attempts, 65, 4 receptions, 5 targets, and a touchdown. 17.5. I played a ton of Brian Hill. Who would have thought Ito Smith would be grabbing the touchdowns? I definitely did not. It pissed me off, but it is what it is. That's DFS for you. Calvin Ridley does not have an injury designation. He has been nursing that weird foot ankle injury for the past season, but he's still been seeing decent targets, right? With Julio Jones out, targets go to Calvin Ridley, targets go to Hayden Hurst. He's still seeing 9 targets. He's still seeing 9 targets, 4, 7. At the beginning of the season, 12, 10, 13. I have him in season long. The man has been my number 1 wide receiver for, and to be honest, he was wide receiver 1, I think, 3 games in a row for those first 3 of the season. So still 9 targets, though. Still 9 targets. Can he see more? Do I think that that Atlanta possibly keeps it closer to New Orleans now that they know what Taysom Hill is gonna do? Maybe, right? He's gonna be 7,200. It's hard to pay up for that, especially when it's such weird variance. But like I said, if Julio Jones is out and Olamide Zaccheaus is put on IR, I think Calvin Ridley sees a lot of targets. However, can you go for Hayden Hurst? The man has seen 8 targets. The man has seen 8 targets. The man has seen 7 targets. He's putting up okay fantasy points. However, at 4K, you really want to see more. But again, touchdown variance, right? So if you can grab 5 for 52 and a touchdown, that's a yes for me. You know what I mean? Even at the price tag, tight end has just been so crap this season that, I mean, you just want to see double-digit targets from him, right? So, but he's seeing these targets. You know, you want to see double-digit fantasy points, but as long as he's seeing 8, 7, maybe around there, and possibly grabs a touchdown in the end zone, I mean, that's money in the bank right there. So, Julio Jones, like I said, it might be out on injury. Emmanuel Sanders, I liked Emmanuel Sanders, especially against the Chargers when Drew Brees was playing, just because of those prayer yards, #prayer yards. But saying Taysom Hill slinging out that far, definitely not. So 1 target, that's not fun to see. So I think I'm going to go ahead and fade Emmanuel Sanders, especially at 4,700. Maybe if it was 3K around there, maybe below 4, I would consider it. But being 47 and wanting to see freaking 2 targets against Atlanta, no thank you. Even with this 5 here, I still don't think that Taysom is going to do it for them. So I'm going to go ahead and fade him entirely. Michael Thomas, he's at 7K, just like Alvin Kamara, just like his boy, right? They're buddies down there in the 7K range. It's unfortunate. This man was 9K to start the season. And then injury happened, and then he punched his coach or something like that. So a lot of shit's been happening to this man. But I still think he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. He just hasn't been seeing the target share there. But against Atlanta, though, he did catch 9 for 12. A lot of quick slant boy routes that he was getting. Would have loved to see him grab a touchdown, but it is what it is. Still 9 for 104 is fantastic. Can he do it again against Atlanta? I think so. He's a slant boy for a reason. Taysom Hill can't really chuck it that far. You know, he's beginning these rushing touchdowns. But like I said, can Taysom sling the ball for a touchdown and get his possible first catch in the end zone? But possibly. And to be honest, I think Michael Thomas is going to be that guy. You know, he does seem to like him. 6 targets, 12 targets. You know, so can you play him? 100%. Right? Would I stack him with Taysom Hill? Definitely not. I would probably go for more of maybe a Aaron Rodgers, but can Michael Thomas be a good one-off with maybe let's say Todd Gurley sits? Can you put him with a Brian Hill or an Ito Smith run back just for some cheap 4K points? Yes, I think so. Russell Gage, he's seeing targets against New Orleans. He saw 12. Doesn't mean he's getting that many points though, right? So even though you're seeing these targets and you might be volume, these receptions aren't really there, though. You want to see more of if you're seeing 6 targets, maybe 4 catches. 12 targets, maybe 8 or 9. 5 targets and 3, that's fine. But against Vegas, they were buying them entirely. So I'm really going to go ahead and fade Russell Gage, especially at 4,500. Tre'Quan Smith for New Orleans. The man's just dust, right? He doesn't do anything. He's got 2 targets, 14 yards, and a touchdown. Sure, that's might be good for someone if they have him in season long, but otherwise, I don't like him that much, especially with Michael Thomas. And again, I think you can go ahead and fade him entirely. Christian Blake, Brandon Powell. Can they be played at 3K? Straight min, 100%. Against New Orleans, they will be slinging the ball. Brandon Powell didn't see crap against New Orleans last time, but he did see 2 targets and a touchdown against Las Vegas. That was 8 points. That's really all you need to see. You want to see like X3, right? So like 8.4, maybe you want to see like 9, right? That'd probably be a little bit better. Actually, that'd be like the most optimal. But to be honest, for 3K, 8.4 points isn't bad, especially if you're paying up for higher priced guys. Christian Blake does seem to be the one that's getting more of the targets in that regards, especially with Olamide Zaccheaus out. And if Julio Jones sits again, can Christian Blake be a fantastic play at 3K? 100%. Right, he's going to have to see a touchdown, maybe possibly like 5 targets seen his way if Hayden Hurst and Calvin really aren't just eating them all day, but still 4 targets against New Orleans when they were trailing, that's not bad. So, Jared Cook, I would completely go ahead and fade this man. He's not seeing much, especially from Taysom Hill, and to be honest, I don't think Jared Cook's that much of a good tight end, if I'm going to be honest with you. Some games he shows up, but other games he just doesn't catch the 1 or 2 that he's getting, and Drew Brees isn't here to keep slinging the balls. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go ahead and fade Jared Cook entirely. Defense, I think you could definitely run with the Saints. 3,600 is a lot. I'm a punt defense truther. I've always done it. The only time I think I do it sometimes is if I have enough to pay up to like maybe 3K. But the Saints, they're just way too much. I think you can see some decent price points down below. The Falcons, I'm going to go ahead and fade them entirely as well. Against Derek Carr, they were good because Derek Carr sucks. But against Taysom Hill, who's just going to hold the ball in his arms the entire time, I really don't think that they're going to do much. So on to the next one. We've got Detroit and Chicago. This game has very, very good plays, right? So Matt Stafford, going to start with him. He has been okay. He, at 5,700, isn't going to put up a 30-point game like you're going to want to see. But he can sling the ball. And the last time Detroit played Chicago, Chi-Town, he threw the ball 42 times, right? Granted, he only completed 24 for 297, but if that was a 300, that would have been a 20-point game right there. He was 3 yards away. How would he have known? I think just about 1 touchdown, but I think with Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay is out, though. Marvin Jones is going to be the clear-cut wide receiver 1. TJ Hawkinson is going to be amazing at the position because I don't think Chicago is that good against the tight end, but still he's got that weird thumb injury, so I wouldn't really trust him there. However, Mitchell Trubisky on the opposite end, he is back. I don't think Mitch is good. I think he's okay, but I definitely think he's better than Nick Foles. He's been in the Millie Maker lineup before. Mitchell Trubisky has been decent. 46 attempts. Granted, this was when they were behind freaking 20-some points. They were down, I think, even more when Green Bay slaughtered them entirely. 46 completions for 21. He was close to another touchdown, I believe. Even David Montgomery grabbed one against Detroit last time he played. 24 points. I think he could possibly be in the Millie Maker lineup. They did sling the ball quite a bit. It was just a crazy pass attack. And to be honest, I mean, can you trust him at 54? Of course, right? I think you can pay down here, grab maybe a decently chalky QB, stack him up with someone who's going to catch a lot of passes with there, and maybe run it back with Hawkinson or somebody like that. But otherwise, wouldn't trust too much, right? In regards to the running backs, DeAndre Swift is still going to be questionable with his concussion. It's an illness now, but I think he has, at least from what Adrian Peterson was saying, he hasn't been feeling like himself. He doesn't seem like that same number 1 running back that we were seeing in previous spots. Last game he played was Week 10 against Washington. He had 25.9 points. The man was amazing. He is catching so many passes out of the back. He's running off for so many yards. He's grabbing so many attempts. and Adrian Peterson is dust, and Kerryon Johnson, I believe. Yeah, Kerryon Johnson, he just ain't doing much, right? So I think if DeAndre Swift plays, he's probably a good play. But we'll see about that. David Montgomery, however, is going to be a smash play. He is going to be super chalky. So this is where I said in the beginning of the show, I think you can eat the chalk in some of these positions. I definitely think David Montgomery is going to be one of them. Granted, he did have that 57-yard run that Green Bay let him off for. But, I mean, as we can see here, they rank 28th. I think Detroit is probably close to dead last in regards of protecting the run and letting running backs grab a bunch of points off of them. 11 attempts for 103. I think he can see more of like 15, 16, like he's been seeing down here. But he had just come back off of injury. Cordero Patterson was grabbing some of the work while he was out. However, I definitely think against Green Bay, especially I definitely think against Detroit, rather, especially with them hopefully keeping it closer than this Green Bay game was. I definitely think he can see somewhere towards 16 touches. He's also catching targets at the back. 40 yards, 6 targets, 5 receptions, and a touchdown, right? So I think if he's going to go off for another high total game, for another high point game, rather, it's going to be against Detroit, who has just been awful against the run. They let Duke Johnson, grab a high flying touchdown in the end zone when he lined out back. So can David Montgomery do the same thing? Sure. But he's going to be hecka chalky. So kind of play at your own discretion. Allen Robinson, he's listed as questionable. He hurt his knee in Friday's practice when he was seeming to be one of the best plays on the slate against Green Bay. Like I said, when they were chucking the ball, when Mitchell Trubisky was trying to show his arm to his coach Nagy that 13 reception. Every time Mitchell Trubisky plays, man, he has got insane target share. 9, 13, 10 against Tampa Bay, 16. Carolina, 9, right? So these are crazy target shares. Even when Nick Foles under center, he's still seeing 9, 7, 9 targets. But when Mitchell Trubisky plays, he sees upwards of 10 plus. We saw 13 here for 74 and 2 touchdowns. Even against their decent pass defense against Green Bay, Allen Robinson still saw 2 touchdowns. If he plays, I think Allen Robinson is a smash as well. I think if you want to get away from the chalk on David Montgomery, you can go Allen Robinson. I don't see anything wrong with that. However, if he doesn't play, then it opens up massive plays and good like low salary, amazing plays with Darnell Mooney, with 6 targets, 11 targets, 9 targets against Green Bay. I mean, these are prayer yards basically. So if you want to put them in, you can. But at 3,400, I mean, you can't beat it, right? Because some of these target shares, those 13 targets that Allen Robinson is seeing, those are going to go somewhere, right? They're going to have to either go to Darnell Mooney, maybe David Montgomery in the back, or my favorite GPP play of the slate in Anthony Miller. He's at 3,100. He's almost 100% min at 3K. But he's seeing 6 targets. He's seeing 7 targets. He's seeing 8 targets. He's seeing 11, 5, 3, 4, 5, 5, 3, 6. Again, last time they played Detroit, 17.6. He grabbed a touchdown, right? Against Atlanta, he grabbed a touchdown. He's more touchdown dependent than I think Darnell Mooney is. And if Allen Robinson's out, he's got to pass it to somebody. Allen Robinson are those quick, a little bit inside slants that Mitch Trubisky loves to throw to. And Anthony Miller is not that prayer yard god like Darnell Mooney is. Anthony Miller is going to catch some balls, right? He's going to catch some. 5.8, I don't think is bad at all. For his last Green Bay outing, he could see upwards of maybe 15, 16, especially at 3,100. He's a smash. 100% a smash. With Detroit, you can go Marvin Jones. He's going to be the number one. He saw 12 targets against Houston. However, I think at 5,700, he's a little bit too much. Marvin Jones isn't that great of a wide receiver. I do wish Kenny Golladay was back, but he's nursing that hip injury. If you're going to go with anybody, I think maybe you either go Danny Amendola over here at 3,700, who's still seeing a decent bit of target share and can possibly get you a touchdown just because he is a big favorite of Matthew Stafford. Or I think you go over here and pay up for TJ Hawkinson entirely at 5K. I think he is egregiously priced, but if you're going to go anyone on this Detroit passing attack, TJ Hawkinson is going to be that guy. He saw 8 targets, 7 targets, 5 receptions for 89. Got you 13.9 on that slate for Thanksgiving and Turkey Day against Carolina. They didn't put up any points, but he still saw 7 targets, 4 receptions for 68, and got you 10.8, right? That's just a touchdown added on there with that weird touchdown variance. He's fantastic. Cole Kmet. This is another one. 2,500 if Allen Robinson is out. This man has been running more routes. This man right here, Cole Kmet, K-M-E-T, has been running more routes than Jimmy Graham has these last few games. And I don't know if that's because Jimmy Graham is just old and dusty, or if because they're trying to get Cole Kmet in there because he's been looking better. I don't know what it is, but he's still seeing 3 targets and 3 targets. These yards aren't there, and the receptions just maybe it's the QBs. Maybe they're just like little. I didn't watch the game necessarily to see exactly how these catches went. I think Mitch Trubisky threw one for Kmet in the end zone, and it was just a little bit too high. But if he's running more routes than Jimmy Graham, and he's stone cold 2,500 against Detroit with Allen Robinson out, I think Kmet's a smash, right? So I think you can go with either Cole Kmet. I wouldn't really go Jimmy Graham. He's seeing 4 targets, but Kmet's just running more routes, and I really don't think Jimmy Graham, especially at 3,600, is enough for me to want to put him in my lineup. So I think I fade the Bears and I fade the Lions defense. But if you want to put one in, probably the Bears. I don't think the Lions can really do much against Chicago entirely. But yeah, that's the end of that game. Washington and Pittsburgh obviously postponed. We go over to Jacksonville, Minnesota. This is a fantastic game. So let me go ahead and cross that off. Jacksonville, Minnesota, fantastic game, right? A lot of chalk here. Gardner Minshew is back, but I believe that Mike Glennon is going to be playing for him. So we go ahead and although I would love Minshew to play, right? The stash is going to be the one. If anything, it's going to keep this game closer, but you can go Mike Glennon maybe. 4,800, he put up 18 points against Cleveland, who have a decent defense. A lot better than Minnesota, that's for sure. He was able to sling the ball, right? The dude said before, he said, I'm just going to go out there and sling it. And that's exactly what he did. He had some help from some rookies. Some of them were out, some of the receiving core, but I think a lot of them are back. You can maybe go with him at 4,800, but I would like to pay up more. 600 more for Mitch Trubisky at 54. I'd say he's probably a better spot, but this game could prove a little bit more competitive. So Kirk Cousins, the dude put up 30 points last game. Dallas 26 points. Chicago 18.58, right? Detroit 20.8. Jacksonville is the worst defense in the league right now. Right, I think behind or in front of the Jets. I think it's honestly a toss-up for one or the other. So they allow the most air yards. They allow the most quarterback points per game. They allow the most running back rush yards per game. So I think any of these players you want on here are going to be fantastic. Can it be a Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson game? Sure. Can it also be a Dalvin Cook game? Yes, but with Dalvin Cook, obviously, you're going to be eating a lot of the chalk. Even though he busted last week at 95 and kind of crushed my my big money dreams because I played a lot of him, he still has that ceiling of 42, 51, 36. You know what I mean? So even though he busted 11.2 against Carolina, Jacksonville has a worse defense. I don't think Jacksonville is going to be punching the ball out as much as Jeremy Chin did last week against Minnesota. So I definitely think you can play Dalvin Cook. Granted, if you want to eat the chalk or not, he's also 9,500, so it's a pretty huge price point. James Robinson, I think, is a fantastic spot as well. He's going to be a little bit chalky, but I think you're going to be able to eat this just because he's such a lower price point than any of these other running backs up here. And he's always he's seeing the lion's share, 22, 17, 23, 25. Last week he had 22 for 128, 6 targets for 5 receptions, 31 yards, and he had a rushing touchdown as well. He's able to put up almost 30 points exactly. Do I think he's a fantastic spot? Yes. I think if you want to stray away from the chalk entirely, and you really want to get contrarian with it, you can probably go for a Kirk Cousins stack with Adam Thielen here, I think leads the league in red zone attempts here. So he's got 11 targets, 7, 5. I mean, the man he's a wide receiver 1. You know what I mean? And Justin Jefferson I would say he's probably a wide receiver 1 as well, if he wasn't just a rookie. But it is his rookie season. You know, we'll have to see how he does in his sophomore season. Still stuck with the Minnesota Vikings. But Adam Thielen is amazing. He's back from COVID, and his last game he put up 35.3 points. Right, that's granted, that's 2 touchdowns. But even if he gets one, you know, for 100 plus, 150 maybe even against Jacksonville if they keep it kind of close, I think Thielen's going to be a great play. You could also run it down here with Justin Jefferson at 69, just 400 shy of being exactly on Adam Thielen. But like I said, he is the rookie. They're going to pay him a little bit down just to give respect to Thielen. 26 points, 17 points, 24 points in his last 3 outings against Jacksonville. It's a huge, great spot. So can it be one or the other? Can it be both? Of course. Will I probably go with Thielen more so than Jefferson, solely based on the red zone usage with Thielen? Probably. But I think Jefferson is going to be a little bit more owned. No one really likes to play people right if they come back from injury, even though it's just COVID. I still think people might fade Thielen and go more towards Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook. You can even play Kyle Rudolph here with Irv Smith possibly out. You saw 8 targets last game against Carolina. Can you grab a touchdown this game if they still keep it competitive, of course? So you can possibly punt it with, or not punt, rather, he's 3,400, but you can possibly play Kyle Rudolph for some of these stacks. We go over here to DJ Shark. He's back, right? He had a rib injury, but he's back. With Glennon under center, maybe, right? He's a 5,400 punt. I would say punt play, not because he's cheap, but punt play because we don't know what Mike Glennon can do, right? Can Mike Glennon sling the ball enough for DJ Shark to see a good enough bit of usage? I think so. DJ Shark is a very, very good wide receiver, and I definitely think that he can catch some. Keelan Cole was the number 1 de facto wide receiver when DJ Shark was missing, but he himself, Chris Conley was missing, so Keelan Cole was de facto. But we also saw that Colin Johnson came out and really showed that he's a pretty fantastic looking rookie. I mean, the man was doing end zone dives, to get himself his first career his second career touchdown of the season so far as a rookie. That's not bad, right? He put up 19.6 points, 8 targets. Mike Glennon was just slinging it out randomly, 4 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown. Granted, he had a 46 long, but can he do it again against Minnesota? I'm sure. Laviska Shenault, can't trust him. He's good. He's got some gloves on him. I think he's got some good hands. Even at 3,600, he could be a good play. Just to get contrarian with it and kind of make a decent play on that end with the run back. But man, if I was gonna run it back with somebody, I would maybe pay up a little bit more for DJ Shark or even go with Cole, just a little bit more expensive. So you can possibly punt with Tyler Eifert at 3K. He's not stone cold min like Ferczer or Komet. But I do think that Tyler Eifert has been seeing a decent bit of usage. He's seeing 4 targets, 5 targets, 4 targets, 5 targets. That's 9. That's 18 targets in his last 4 outings. And last game he had 10.6 with a touchdown. So can Tyler Eifert catch a ball? Yes. Can Tyler Eifert get some looks from Mike Lennon, of course. So can you play him? Sure, play whoever you want. It's your lineup. So Vikings and Jaguars, I don't trust any of their defenses. If you want to go Stone Cold Min, you can go Jaguars. They put up 4 against Cleveland, 2 against Pittsburgh. Do they have the opportunity to catch some interceptions and some fumbles against Green Bay? Yes. Can they do it against Minnesota? We saw last week that Carolina punched some balls out. You know what I mean? So if they can do it, they're going to do it against them. So let's head over to the Cincinnati-Miami game. If Tua is out, which it seems like he might be, it's a game time call. I don't like Tua if he plays. So if Tua is out, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Fitzmagic, the gunslinger himself, the stone cold lone cowboy out here on this Miami Dolphins team with the majestic beard that he has is in play 100%. I think my highest point lineup I had last week had Ryan Fitzmagic under center as QB. The man attempted 39 pass attempts. Even when they're up 20-3, he had 39 with 24 completions. 19.28, but I mean, that's 2 touchdowns. We didn't really see his rushing upside that he has. He ran 3 times for 10 yards. Sometimes the man's got even longer rushes here. I mean, 7 for 38 and a touchdown. You know what I mean? So things like that are just way, way better. And we could possibly say that again against Cincinnati, who have been running with like a 3rd string QB or something like that. I think only a couple people ran or caught a touchdown on that team. So can Fitzmagic sling the ball out, get them up ahead, maybe get you a rushing touchdown, put up 25 plus points? I think so. On the opposite end, like I said, they're running with a 3rd string. Brandon Allen, not that good. Shares my name, but doesn't share the football prowess. Granted, he's in the NFL and I'm not, but still, 8.14 points, not good enough. 29 pass attempts against the Giants. He only put up 17 points, 1 touchdown. Right? He's throwing it for 1. I think they might have ran it in with some random running backs. But yeah, I mean, he threw it to T. Higgins, but T. Higgins is just a massive rookie. So I think you completely fade the QB situation there. If they bring Myles Gaskin off IR tomorrow, he also is a very good play. We saw what he was doing before he got injured. He was going for 16. I mean, the man was getting huge amounts of attempts. 18, 18, 16, 22, right? And this was around the time this 9 and 7 and 10 point games, or 10 attempt games rather. These are the ones where they were still trying to figure out if he was a clear cut running back for the team. They finally figured it out, with him his last 2 games getting 18 attempts, 47, 91, right? He got a touchdown for you. So these points are good. They're not great. I think we could see more if he does get activated off IR. He could be like an Austin Eckler and get you like 25 points off his first game. It's off the variance chance. We don't know if they're going to be limiting his snaps. But to be honest, who else do they have back here? Matt Brady is on COVID-19. Even when he did play, the guy sucked. He's dust. Salvon Ahmed, right? Still no picture for him. But I mean, the man looked good. I picked him up my season long, and then he had that weird shoulder injury. So if they don't take off Myles Gaskin from IR and Salvon Ahmed plays, I definitely think Ahmed is a good play. For 5K, I mean, the man getting you 16 points isn't bad as long as he jumps in the end zone. And against Cincinnati, I think it's possible, but it does show here that he's pretty doubtful. So unfortunately not. DeAndre Washington, also doubtful. So to be honest, all there really is taking Myles Gaskin off of IR or possibly playing Patrick Dustface Laird, who fumbled his first attempt. I would love for Patrick Laird to do something. I don't think he will. So unfortunately, I completely don't want to touch any running back on the Miami side unless Myles Gaskin is back. However, on the Cincinnati side, Giovanni Bernard isn't that bad, right? He's not a Joe Mixon by any means, but we've seen what he can do before. He's gotten 22 points. He's gotten 20 points. They seem to be dialing him back recently. I don't see it. We don't see a lot of rushing attempts here. So can you play him? Sure. Will he get you some fantastic upside? He can get there. Do I think they're going to use him like that? I definitely don't think so. So I essentially just go ahead and fade them entirely. Wide receiver wise, you can go Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins. I definitely think one of them are going to be in play. I'm not sure which one it might be. T. Higgins had just been seeing such good usage in the passing game. Even on 5 targets, he had 5 receptions. This is on a Brent Allen, right? So 44 targets and a touchdown got you 15 points. However, we've seen what he can do. Granted, this is with Joe Burrow under center, so can you really say what the new guy with the new QB can do? Probably not, but still, one of them are going to be in. At least one of them is going to catch a touchdown. Maybe try both of them, in different lineups. See which one you get, because Tyler Boyd is still seeing 6 targets. Can AJ Green do anything? Negative. I love AJ Green. I have loved his price tag this entire year. It's fluctuated from really high to super duper low, but can the man get you there? I don't think so. So now at 3,100, he's only seeing 3 targets. He ain't catching jack. So I really think you go ahead and fade AJ, as much as I hate to say it. However, Devontae Parker is a fantastic play, especially if Fitzmagic plays. We've always seen Fitzpatrick throw the dang ball to Devontae Parker. 4, 8, 5, 12, 8, 7, 7. And then obviously these are with Tua here. But last game we saw Fitzmagic come back and he got 14 targets, 119 yards, puts up 22.9 fantasy points. Absolute smash again against Cincinnati. I think Miami trails off and completely obliterates this game, as much as I hate to say it, because I do like Cincinnati. But with Joe Burrow gone, I really don't think they can do much, even with their talented wide receiver core. So I do think Devontae Parker is a smash at 6,400. Especially pivoting off some of the chalk, I think with like Brandon Woods and Cooper Kupp, you can pay up a little bit more, get Devontae Parker, get you some points, possibly win the millie. Tight end, you can go Gesicki because, well, he saw a touchdown last game, and Cincinnati sucks against tight ends. Gesicki is a favorite target of Fitzpatrick as well. That's all I got to say about that, right? 11 points, right? As long as he gets you 5 targets, and a possible touchdown from Fitzmagic, guaranteed 100%. Can he possibly throw it to Smythe or Shaheen like he did last game? Sure, but to be honest, even at 25 Stone Cold Min, I'd rather go like Ferczer. If you're going to pay it for tight end, I would say go for Gesicki. Drew Sample, he's got a fat head, but the man's seeing 5 targets, 4 targets, 7 points. Did he lose a fumble? He did, but is that going to stop Drew Sample from catching any passes from Brandon Allen? I definitely don't think so. However, they kept it close against the hapless Giants because, Danny Dimes was out with that hamstring injury. So do I think that Drew Sample is going to catch more with Miami and their talented defense? I definitely don't. So I'm going to go ahead and fade Drew Sample entirely. I think you could definitely run with the Dolphins, but they're 4,400, right? DraftKings is getting smart. Dolphins before were 28, 24, right? And they're put up 23 points against the LA Rams. Now people are starting to realize that the Dolphins have a good defense, right? And they're seeing decent interceptions and sack rates and these tiny bits of points allotted. So I definitely think Miami's in play. However, does anyone want to pay up for 4,400 when you got other people to pay for it? I definitely don't think so. So that's about it for that end. We'll go to New York Giants and Seattle. Daniel Jones, doubtful. Colt McCoy is in. I don't trust Colt at all. The man put up 1.94. Granted, this was like more than halfway with the game done. Seattle does have the worst defense in pass rating. But do I trust Colt McCoy to sling it? No. However, do I trust him to throw quick little slants to certain receivers? Sure. But I don't trust him enough to get like 30-plus points. Russell Wilson, however, man, they were letting Russ cook for like most of the season, and then we start to get towards the latter end of it. And granted, LA Rams, they put up a good job with their number 1 defense, but even against Arizona, 20, even against Philadelphia, 14.4. Even though DK Metcalf went off for 10 catches and 100+ yards. Dropped a freaking ball in the end zone that would have put him up even more, and possibly gotten this guy some more points. But it is what it is. You know what I mean? Against the Giants, do I think he could cook even more than he did against Philadelphia? Possibly, but I still think they're going to go up even further ahead than it did against Wentz. And to be honest, I think the play could be Chris Carson. He doesn't have an injury designation anymore. If Carlos Hyde doesn't play, I haven't checked yet, but he's still questionable, I believe. If he doesn't play, Chris Carson, they're going to be pounding the rock, especially with them being, pretty much favorites plus 10. Even though he's only seeing 8 for 41 and a touchdown and 2 for 18, I think Chris Carson looks better. He, obviously he's starting to feel a lot better. I think he looks better than Carlos Hyde and, all these other guys. So, DJ Dallas and everything like that. So I really think if they're going to go with anybody, they might let Chris Carson pound the rock in, start to feel better, really work his leg and his foot out. So we'll have to see about that. Like I say, Carlos Hyde, questionable with a toe injury. If he doesn't play, Chris Carson's a smash. Wayne Gallman Jr. has been seeing really good usage. Really good usage. These past 4 games, he has put up 13, 14, 19. They had that bye, and then 18.1. Okay, he's seeing 24 attempts for 94 yards. If that was 6 more, he would have hit that mile mark, or he would have hit the 100-yard mark, and he would have gotten probably 20 points. Maybe he would have been in the Millie Maker lineup. You know what I mean? But regardless, Wayne Gallman's doing something right? And I don't think they're going to be adding Devontae Freeman off IR anytime soon. Maybe like another game or so. But even against Philadelphia, the man's putting up touchdowns, right? I don't think, especially with Colt McCoy, they're going to be chucking the ball much. Even though this man saw 3 receptions, trash, -3 yards, but still, I think it might be some weird dink and dunks. But I think they're going to try to run the ball. He's going to get some usage. Granted, do I think Seattle has a really good run defense? I definitely do, but still in play for me. DK Metcalf is a grown-ass man. One of many, but still like a handful, right? I think it count like maybe 6 or 7 grown-ass men. DK Metcalf is definitely up there, probably number 2, if not number 1. The man put up 30 points. It was his career high, I believe. And he's looking to do it again. This was against one of their, Darius Slay, one of the best, most accomplished corners in the game. And DK Metcalf smoked him. There's a lot of memes going around. I don't know if you've seen them yet, where DK Metcalf is Darius Slay's dad. He's got him on his shoulder, right? As a little kid at a birthday party. DK Metcalf is the dad. I think against James Bradberry, it's going to be tough because Bradberry is a little bit more agile and can cover a little bit more, but you can't cover DK Metcalf, right? Have you seen this dude? This dude's my age, 22, 23, and he's a freaking beast, right? So he's got 13 targets, 177 yards, 30 points last game against the hapless Giants. They're gonna have to get points somewhere, right? Do I think it's gonna be Lockett? Do I think it's gonna be a Metcalf game? That's always gonna be the question. But Metcalf has been getting there. And granted, I was lucky on my pick last week because you can maybe play some like weird superstition stuff where you go every 2 games DK Metcalf has some crazy numbers, you know what I mean? But even you go down here, it's 19, 19, 23, 27. You know what I mean? But then you had the 26, and then 2 games later you had the 30. So who's it going to be? No one knows. However, he's eclipsed 1,000 receiving yards. Can he get that 10th touchdown? Possibly. I definitely think Tyler Lockett's in play too at 7,400. He's $800 cheaper than DK Metcalf, and we've seen what Lockett can do, right? 56 points against Arizona, 40 against Dallas, 20 against New England, around there, and the rest are just kind of weird duds, right? 21 against Arizona. I'm pretty sure the Giants are worse on the inside slots. So Lockett kind of plays and lives around there. But Russell likes to air it, and DK Metcalf could have just another huge game. I mean, I think if Tyler Lockett goes off, it'll be a 56-point game, right? There's no way that when Tyler Lockett goes off, he goes off, right? 13 targets, 20 targets, crazy numbers. He's got like 3 touchdowns in each of his massive games. Even if he grabs one, it's pretty good. But that was with him catching 9 for 9 and 67 yards, right? So, man, who do you choose? No one knows. I love DK. You can go Lockett if you want to. Maybe if you want to punt, you can go David Moore, but the man's not seeing that much, right? Against Buffalo, he put up 17.1, but that was a high slinging game anyways. He caught a touchdown, but 3 receptions for 3 targets and -6 yards. I don't even know how that happens. I watched the game, but I didn't see the -6 and how that happened. But he had 1 touchdown, brought him up to 8.5. He's the puntiest of punts, especially with this being a huge high-flying offense with DK and Tyler Lockett. So who can you play? Maybe David Moore, right? On the opposite end, I think you can go Sterling Shepard. He's in play. The man's been catching some decent balls. 10 targets, 8 targets, 6 targets, and even 8 with Daniel Dimes out. So with Colt McCoy, he's going to be slinging it quick. Seattle has a decent defense in regards to rushing the passer, but against coverage, they're just not good at all. So can Sterling Shepard get out real quick, catch a ball, and maybe take it up for a little bit short? If he can see 8 targets with 100 plus and possibly a touchdown, if Colt McCoy takes a book out of Mike Glennon, if takes a page out of Mike Glennon's book and decides to just sling it around, can Sterling Shepard go for a touchdown? Sure. I think Darius Slayton has been weirdly injuring or nursing something. Even though he saw all these targets, he's still not getting there like he was before earlier in the season. I mean, against Pittsburgh, he had 31 points. So, and even against Dallas, he had 23.9. So, can he get there again? Seattle, if he's going to, Seattle's going to be the team. But I think you could even go with Golden Tate. He was going to be a favorite punt play of mine, but I was able to save some money and go up for Sterling Shepard. But the man saw 9 targets. I don't know if you saw the game, but like I said, Colt McCoy had to sling it quick. The man was getting rushed. The man got sacked. The man, I think, dropped the fumble as well. So he had to sling it quick, and Golden Tate is that inside guy. He's the quick slant. He's the quick turnaround. He's going to catch those quick balls. 9 targets, and this was mostly when Colt McCoy came in. We didn't really see Daniel Jones throw it much to Golden Tate. The target share kind of flopped off after like the first few weeks of football, and he's slowly seeing a decline. However, last game he did see 9 targets, 36 yards granted, but Cincinnati, they have a decent defense, and I wouldn't say decent, but it's okay, especially against the Giants. But Seattle, if there's going to be one team to throw it against, it's going to be Seattle. So you got to go with Golden Tate or Sterling Shepard, IMO, and probably get you something. Evan Ingram saw huge game. 20 points, right? 129 yards, 9 targets, 6 receptions. However, this was during Daniel Dimes' stint before he got injured. Colt McCoy probably threw him 1 or 2. Evan Ingram also dropped a fumble, right? You know what I mean? So can you trust him as much as I want to? Because I think he's a really good tight end with Colt McCoy in. Probably not, right? If anything, you're going to be paying $4,900, possibly almost $5,000, which is like TJ Hawkinson price, just for maybe 12. And I'd rather go with Ferczer, who's going to be the clear-cut tight end. So on the opposite end, Jacob Hollister, you can go with him. He's seeing more targets. He seems to be the better tight end out of the weird Greg Olsen, Will Dissly, Jacob Hollister pack. Greg Olsen's on IR, so Will Dissly and Jacob Hollister are there. However, Will Dissly just isn't showing much. 1 target, 2 target, 1 target, 1 target. He's catching them. Are they getting him any points? Nada. 3,300 versus Jacob Hollister's 3K, and he's seeing more targets. I'd much rather go Jacob Hollister. But that's all for that. The Giants and Seahawks. Seahawks have a trash defense. Giants are just trash in general. I like Jabril Peppers and I like, James Bradbury, but do I think they're going to pick off Seattle a bunch? I really don't think so. So I really think you kind of fade them both. You could probably just go 2,100 for the Jets and call it a day. So we'll go over the next one. We only have a couple more after this. It's going to be the LA Rams versus the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray has been good this season. However, recently he's been nursing this weird right shoulder. He's practiced fully, but still, I mean, you look at him play, he's not slinging as much. He doesn't want to get hit too hard because if he hits his shoulder, he's out for the playoffs, and we just don't want that for the Cardinals. So I don't think they're running it with him as much. Nor are they, I mean, they're still slinging it, 34, right? But he's only, the reason why we pay 82, 85, 8K, 78 was because of his rushing upside. And if he's not getting his rushing upside, then we ain't playing him. Right? So that's just it. That's kind of how it goes. The reason why we played Josh Allen, because of rushing upside. The reason why we played Lamar Jackson last year, rushing upside. Things like that. If you're going to play these high slingers, you're going to play Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, people who just stay in the pocket and have a cannon for an arm. And Kyler Murray just doesn't really have that. Kyler Murray has a decent arm, granted, but, decent arm to throw to DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best wide receivers in the league, so, I mean, he's going to catch it no matter what. So I really don't think at 7,600 you can really pay for him, especially if he's not going to get that rushing upside. If he's going to throw it maybe 34 times like he did against New England, against Los Angeles, man, they've got Jalen Ramsey. They got Aaron Donald, who's going to be rushing the passer a lot. Kyler can run, but what if he gets sacked? What if he gets hit? He hurts that right shoulder. So I think, if anything, they're going to be running it a lot to Kenyon Drake. I have him in season long. I thought about playing him again in DFS. I think I can get elsewhere with the price, but Kenyon Drake has 22 attempts, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns, right? And these are goal line touchdowns. These aren't like breakoffs where he's getting huge runs. You know what I mean? These are just pound the rock in, try to get to that touchdown. He's also seen some targets out of the backfield where Chase Edmonds was really taking it from him. But now that he's seeing some catches back there, he's a fantastic play at 57. Do I think the LA Rams have a good defense? Yes. Do I think Kenyon Drake can still get there and still put up some points? Yes. Because, like I said, he's getting those goal lines. And, I mean, if someone's punching it in 2 or 3 times, they're going to get there eventually. Jared Goff, he's in his goofy little face. He's in a good, okay matchup, but Cliff Kingsbury, he has a decent, he's got a decent team, and just that defense is okay. They were able to keep Cam Newton down to, I think, like 17 points, and he probably did like a rushing touchdown or something like that. I wasn't really sure about it, but I just don't want to trust Jared Goff against Arizona. Against Tampa Bay, he put up 28.04 because they're going back to their shitty pass funnel defense that they have. And to be honest, Jared Goff was just able to exploit them for 51 attempts. If anything, I don't want to trust the run game just because it's so wishy-washy. It's either going to be, Darrell Henderson or Cam Akers or Malcolm Brown. I think it's going to be Cam Akers this time just because of that huge game that he had against San Francisco with that nice run. But again, it's kind of like Indianapolis. You know what I mean? Like, who do you trust? So if anything, I would transition over here. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be in a good spot, even though with a tough matchup. He's going to be shadowed probably by Jalen Ramsey. But, like, to be honest, can you stop DeAndre Hopkins? I don't think so. We saw what he did against Buffalo. The man caught a lob against 3 defenders and was able to grab it down. So if anything, like I said, with Jared Goff, you want to go with like maybe Robert Woods, who's seeing a huge amount of target share, 12, 15, 6, and 8 in his last 4 games. The man's putting up decent points, and he has been for the whole entire season. 5,900. I know for a fact that Woods and Kupp are going to be catching some ownership. So if you want to bite the chalk on these guys, and I'm saying you want to eat a lot of this chalk, you can possibly do it. He has the upside. Kupp has the upside for 28.5. Woods has the upside for 30 points. You know what I mean? And there's only 2 favorite targets really on these Rams offense. Can you go with Josh Reynolds? Maybe. I played him against Seattle just because of the porous defense. But after that, he's got a decent 8 out, but he's got 6 targets here. He's not catching touchdowns or anything like that. I think if Woods or Kupp aren't open, that's when he throws it to Josh Reynolds. Christian Kirk and Andy Isabella are still in play. They're not going to be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey by any means, but Andy Isabella has seen 6 targets in his last game with Larry Fitzgerald out at 3,200, getting 8 points, getting 9 points possibly isn't a bad idea by any means. So, pardon me. I seem to have some in my throat still, but Christian Kirk is a decent play. He's able to get you there sometimes, 22, 20, and 26 in that last in those 3-game stints against Dallas, Seattle, and Miami. But after that, Buffalo, even against the second game in Seattle, I think this was like a Monday night game, didn't do too much. You know what I mean? Against New England, it just completely shut him out. I think Bill Belichick was scheming for these wide receivers and really just try to make them run the ball, and that's kind of how they lost. So tight ends, Tyler Higbee, Gerald Everett, I think they're in play, but I don't want to trust them. Higbee looked amazing last year, but for some reason this year the man just isn't producing as much as we want him to. He's seen one game where he's capped double digits, and you just don't want that from a tight end who's 3,400. Same thing with Gerald Everett. I mean, the man has only 2 games where he's gone over double digits, and again, 32. You don't want to see it. You know what I mean? I'd rather pay down for tight end, possibly get you more, and possibly a touchdown as well. Dan Arnold has looked pretty decent. 3 targets, 4 targets here. He's getting you medium, medium fantasy points per game. Especially if you grab the touchdown like here against Seattle, and especially with Larry Fitzgerald out, I think that Dan Arnold can catch some decent balls. But like I said, the Rams are just really good. They're a really good defense. You know what I mean? They're number 1 rated overall against pass protection. So do I think that Dan Arnold can catch something? Sure. But it's just a huge punt play for that. So in regards to defenses, I really think you can play the Rams. 3,200, they're pretty expensive, but I mean, if you can pay up just a little bit and save some salary somewhere, I think the Rams are in play. Aaron Donald is ginormous, you know what I mean, and I think Jalen Ramsey is amazing too. So we'll head over to the next one. We got one more after this, but it's the Philadelphia and Green Bay game. Aaron Rodgers is good. He is on track for an MVP season. He is good. He's 6,800. Which I think is cheaper than Justin Herbert, is cheaper than Kyler Murray, cheaper than Russell Wilson, things like that. But Aaron Rodgers has been consistent. The man has put up 25 in his last game in Chicago, which he didn't really have to sling it that much, but he did. Got 4 touchdowns against him, 211 yards. But even when he was slinging it for more, they were keeping it pretty nice and competitive. 311 yards, 325, 305, 26, 29, 31, 23, 27. I don't count the Tampa Bay game. They got completely smashed out. 32, 24, 33, right? So the man is going to put up points no matter what. Doesn't matter who they're facing, and especially with them facing Philadelphia and dusty old Carson Wentz and that terrible team in general. Do I think Aaron Rodgers will be able to sling the ball and get you some good points? Yes. 6,800. He's not catching that much ownership. They're paying up, or they're paying down for Mitch, or they're paying somewhere else. Aaron Rodgers is just going, just like no one's looking at him. And for some reason, I don't get it, right? And obviously, if you play Aaron Rodgers, you're going to have to play the boy Devontae Adams, right? The man has the highest target share in the league. He's always getting you there, even though at 9K, man, I mean, if you play Aaron Rodgers, you got to play Devontae Adams, right? So he's getting you there no matter what. 44 points, 47, 30, 36, even these 19, 26, and 18. These are on 6, 7, 8 targets, but he's still getting those, or 6, 7, 8 receptions rather, but he's still getting those 9, 9, 12, 12 receptions, and at least 1 touchdown in every game. So, right, as long as if he can get you, at least over 100 and get you those extra points, I think he's a smash spot. And Darius Slay clearly was just outmatched by DK Metcalf last week. So I think Devontae Adams is definitely going to be able to do it again to him this week. It's going to be a tragic game for Darius Slay. Alvin Lazard, he's back. He doesn't have an injury designation with that core that he's been working on, especially after that huge hit he took on against the game in Chicago. But he is still seeing some nice targets. He did catch a touchdown. Can you do it again? I'm sure. Like I said, if it's going to be a matchup, it's going to be against Philadelphia. 6 targets, not bad. 5K though, pretty expensive, especially for someone nursing the weird core injury. Like let's say he gets hit, there's always that possibility for injury. So you don't really want to mess with that. But if you want to go ahead and put him in for the possibility of a variance touchdown, just because Aaron Rodgers is going to be slinging the ball to somebody, I definitely think Alvin Lazard is in play. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, the man who dropped the good ball against Indianapolis to put us in a position to win in overtime. I think now that Alvin Lazard is back, he takes most of the shares away from Marquez. He is still 4,400. He did not record a single target. You know what I mean? It's kind of gonna be Robert Tonyan. It's gonna be Alvin Lazard. It's gonna be Davante Adams. It's gonna be Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones. So I think he kind of gets relegated back to his weird wishy-washy, pass catching type role. On the opposite end with the wide receivers, I definitely think you can look at maybe Travis Fulgham. They do have a really good corner that's going to be probably shadowing Travis Fulgham. So, maybe you don't play him. To be honest, do I want to trust any of these Philadelphia wide receivers? Not really. Even with Jalen Reagor or Greg Ward, they're seeing some targets, but still, 7 isn't very good, quite literally at all. And Greg Ward he's not seeing much of anything. So if anything, if you're gonna attack the Green Bay defense, I would say maybe go for like a Dallas Goedert. He's the clear number 1 receiver because Philadelphia and Carson Wentz like to just completely target the tight ends. Zach Ertz is also back, so does that take away from Richard Rodgers? Does that take away from Dallas Goedert? I'm sure it does, but Zach Ertz is very good. Zach Ertz has not been good this season, but is he still a very good tight end? Yes. Can he do it against Green Bay? I'm sure he can. We'll have to see. But I, for one, am completely fading all of the Philadelphia pass catchers. You can maybe run it with Miles Sanders here, who can break away for those really good runs. And if anyone's going to do it, he's going to do it against Green Bay. Boston Scott has been catching some passes out of the back, but do I trust Boston Scott to really yank a lot from Miles Sanders? Probably not. Hopefully he can grab you a touchdown. He's probably the only run back I'm thinking of now that Zach Ertz is back off of IR. He hasn't looked that good, but again, like I said, if he's going to do it against somebody, it's going to be Green Bay. Aaron Jones, very good spot. He's going to be super under-owned, and he's still seeing 17 attempts, 90 yards, possibly a touchdown. Jamal Williams came in and stole his touchdown and some of his usage and some of his catches out of the back, but that's because they were up 41-25, and they were up more than that, like in the half. You know what I mean? Chicago started coming back in the later parts of the game. So, Aaron Jones really didn't have to do much. So they kind of just gave it to Jamal Williams to get that touchdown against him. But, can Aaron Jones smash against Philadelphia? I'm sure he can. And it'll probably take away from the huge 9K, or it won't take away. It'll let you get away from the 9K salary that is Davante Adams with the 7,200 Aaron Jones, who clearly has some good games in him. And I think last we need to talk about Robert Tonyan. I have him in my season long. The man is a beast. The man practices with George Kittle. He is a good friend of his. The man looks good, probably smells good, right? He catches balls good. The man's a beast, right? He's another grown-ass man, but for the tight end position. And he's only 3,700 under Aaron Rodgers, MVP for the Green Bay Packers, okay? So if you play anybody and you know Aaron Rodgers and you know how he loves his tight ends like he has before, Robert Tonyan is probably a smash, right? Philadelphia is trash against tight ends, and we've seen it before. Can he score another touchdown? Can he get maybe 6 targets? We saw what the man can do before. The man got 33 points against Atlanta. 6 for 6 for 98 and 3 touchdowns. Can he do it again against Green Bay? I'm sure he can. So I think he's a fantastic play. In regards to defenses, Packers, 3,800. They're not even that good of a defense. To be honest, I wouldn't play them at all. And the Eagles, I think you just fade the entire team at this point. So, and I'm sure you didn't. I'm sure you figured I didn't talk about Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts. No one knows. Carson Wentz is dust. So go ahead and fade them entirely. Last game, we have New England versus the Chargers. I love Justin Herbert. The man is real. The man constantly puts up 20 points, 30 points, 21, 26, 23, 41. 20. The lowest he's ever put up is 19. That was his third game against Carolina, who has a decent zone coverage pass defense. But the man constantly puts up points. He just does. He lost 2 fumbles here, right? Unfortunately against Buffalo. So he would have had, I think fumbles account for -2, I believe it is, or -1. So he still would have had 22, maybe 22 plus points even at his 7,200 salary. Now he's priced down to 6,900. He's going against New England, who has been sneakily good in some regards. I think he was able to scheme enough. They were able to scheme enough for Kyler Murray just because of his rushing upside. But Justin Herbert loves to sling the ball. He's got Keenan Allen. He's got Mike Williams. He's got Austin Eckler back. So I definitely think that Justin Herbert is in play. He is projecting probably to be the highest point per dollar play on the slate at 6,900. So I love him, right? I have him in season long. I think even with his haircut, the man's a goat, right? He's a fantastic player. Cam Newton, questionable with an abdomen. I really haven't been able to trust Cam Newton at all this season. Even with some decent outings with those weird rushing touchdowns, to be honest, I would rather go with Taysom Hill. I don't trust the 18 attempts with 9 completions or the 17 for 13. And then you got the weird 40 for 26. Obviously, the higher end games were the ones he went against, like Seattle. You know what I mean? 44 for 30. That was fantastic, right? For a couple rushing and a caught one in the end zone. So I don't want to trust Cam Newton even at 5,800. He's obviously a QB you can play naked, but he's never been in the optimal lineup. He might win you some money sometimes, but against the Chargers when they have a decent defense, I don't think so. Plus with him being questionable, it's just not going to be fun. So I think in running back, we look at Austin Eckler. He is in another smash spot. The man has looked fantastic coming off his weird 8-game stint on IR. And he's the only one there. I mean, Joshua Kelly is disgustingly bad. Justin Jackson's still on IR. Kalen Ballage, I think he's still questionable and was banged up last game. If you're still banged up this game and doesn't play, Austin Eckler, there is nobody else, right? There is literally nobody else. Even Tremaine Pope doesn't play. Austin Eckler is the man. 14 for 44, 0 touchdowns on the ground. However, he didn't catch another one, but still puts up 11 receptions on 16 targets and 85 yards. 23.9 points against Buffalo. Buffalo has a decent run defense. Okay, the New England Patriots aren't they good against the run? They're probably a little bit better. They can scheme a lot for the QB and the pass. But I think against the run, they're probably gonna have to look for Austin Eckler a lot. If he can see 16 targets with Justin Herbert under center, and they're scheming for Keenan Allen, who's his favorite target with over like 10 receptions or 10 targets a game, that I think Austin Eckler is a fantastic smash play this game. And if he finds you a touchdown, then he's up like 27 points, and it's amazing. So on the opposite end, Damian Harris has looked good. But I mean, Cam Newton is stealing, rushing touchdowns. James White is getting those weird lobs, caught 2 touchdowns, and ran it in, last game against Arizona. Can he do it again? Can James White do it again? I'm sure he can. Can Damian Harris finally find the end zone? We don't know. But to be honest, I don't want to trust any of these New England backs, no matter how good they look. James White, even being 5K, I mean, he was 45 last game, so now he's priced up 500 more. Around that price point, I'd rather pay for someone else because he's not seeing that much ground game. It's really just these random variance touchdowns that he's getting, and I really don't like that at all. So wide receivers, Keenan Allen, my favorite player ever, literally ever. He's my number one wide receiver that I have on my season long, and I've gone to him multiple times playing DFS. I even went to him against the Jets when he put up his 38.5. Won me a lot of money. So I definitely think he's in play again. He's always seeing these high-end targets, freaking 19, 11, 12, 13, 11, 19, 10. I mean, these are fantastic target shares that you want to see. Granted, did they scheme for him? Sure. Can Bill Belichick do it against Justin Herbert? I'm sure, which is why I said Austin Eckler was probably a better pivot. But he's always catching touchdowns. He's always still putting up 16 points. He's always still catching something and catching touchdown because Justin Herbert relies on him so much. He's now 8,100. Around that price point, you have DK Metcalf. I think you can probably pivot off of Allen because people are going to play him, say they're in a smash spot. He is, but you want to get a little contrarian, especially if you're going to be eating some chalk somewhere else. So I think he is a good play, but it's up to you if you want to go ahead and play him. So Jacoby Myers is also pretty good. He's got 6 targets in his last game. In his past 4, I mean, it's weird and it's kind of up and down, but he had 14, 7, 3, and 6. For some reason, he didn't see that much against Houston, but Cam Newton didn't really do too much himself. So Jacoby Myers is a good play, but at 5,500, like I said, you can probably go somewhere else. To be honest, around that price point, Mike Williams is probably going to be better. Obviously he's not on the Patriots offense, but I'm saying 4,800 around that price point. I'd rather go somewhere down here who's still going to be seeing a decent bit of targets with a nice ADOT to get you some higher end points because Cam Newton is just so wishy-washy. Also, you can probably pivot to Damiere Byrd. Damiere Byrd had a career high 29.3 fantasy points in his last major outing against Houston. Arizona was 8 targets still, though, so it's not bad. Right, so he put up 6.3 at 4,100. Now he's priced down to 3,900. If the man can still see 8 targets against LA, who really just have a good front 7 and a decent, defensive back team. I mean, to be honest, I don't mind paying for him. 3,900 isn't that bad, especially if you're going to be stacking with Keenan Allen and you need to find somewhere cheap. Damiere Byrd's not bad, so. Hunter Henry's also a nice stack if you want to go a little. I wouldn't say contrarian because he's always picking up some bit of ownership. But if you want to maybe stack him with stack Herbert with Mike Williams and also Hunter Henry rather than Keenan Allen just because of how expensive he is, you can totally do that. You grab 2 essentially for the price of 1. With Keenan Allen being 8,100 now, he's still seeing a massive amount of target share. Like I said, Justin Herbert constantly slinging the ball. He's got 10 targets, 7 targets, 6 targets, 7 targets. He's nice because he catches these touchdowns, and he's also getting these nice ADOT targets. So I definitely don't mind it if you want to go Hunter Henry, but paying up for 4,800, man, it sucks, especially when there's just so many good, better value plays at the position. And to be honest, I really wouldn't trust anybody tight end wise on the Patriots offense. I really don't like him. Izzo almost had that weird lob catch, but he's only putting up minimal. But he's 2,500, so if he plays, wouldn't be too bad. So defense wise, you can go with the Patriots. You can go with the Chargers. To be honest, you can choose any of them. I'm always gonna pay down, but if you want to play any of these 2, you're more than welcome because there's always a chance that they catch interception or fumble. So. But yeah, that's it. That's going to do it for week 13. I hope some of these will help you better understand who to choose and who to play in your GPP and cash game lineups. I know I'm ready for it. I'm ready to win some money. I hope you guys are too. Look for me back next week. I'll probably make another video maybe next Friday or Saturday, depending on what day I choose, whichever is best. Maybe I'll do Saturday. That way it's like the day right before the slate starts and I get all the information I need. But that'll do it for this week. Thanks, guys, for tuning in to the MK DFS Show here on the MKD DFS YouTube channel. See you guys later. Bye-bye.